So I'll call to order the Finance and Labor Relation Committee. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? None noted. We have some reports here, and also we have some grants that have come in today. I'm sure everyone is aware of that. The province has given some grants that it's going to change some things a bit. It's on transit and other things. So anyways, we'll have to take that into consideration. But today, I don't think we can bring it to a, because of all these extra things we'll have to take into consideration. So we'll start with reported Director of Corporate Service, who is away, but Ms. Thompson's going to help us, I believe. So we item 3.1 is the 2021 budget survey responses. So it was quite comprehensive. A lot of people don't want tax increase, but they want extra services, and some want more and less. And so anyways, I'll open that up for comments on the budget survey. Councillor Henderson.
Well, there was some concerns on there that I was reading, and I think in my own brain, I know how it happens. Like they were saying, making comments about how the fire department sends them from both stations out when the calls come in. And I've never really thought about that before. I'm assuming they coordinate that and look at that and decide how many trucks they need and what they need there. I know I was involved in one at my own house, and I believe the fire and the ambulance came. I kind of think that went because when I called 911, they asked me what was needed. And I would assume that same thing happens. And I just found that odd that somebody would talk about the fact that it sounded like they were sending two trucks from two different fire departments. And I'm wondering if the fire chief could talk about that, because.
Okay, he's here, Bonnie. We'll allow the fire chief. John, you've got the floor if you're there.
Hello. Yes, I got the floor. Councillor Henderson, could you repeat the question just one more time for me, so I got to clear it?
It's basically somebody had a concern that when there's a call for emergencies, that a truck from both fire departments goes out.
So for are we talking just medical or in particular?
I could try and find it again in the thing. They were basically talking about if they said they could see it as an accident, but if there's an incident going on, why are two fire trucks, two coming from both stations every time?
So the reason we do it that way is, one is our heavy rescue for a vehicle accident. That has all our heavy equipment like the Jaws of Life and vehicle stabilization equipment and whatnot to handle the vehicle accident itself. But we also have to send a pumper in case there's any fuel spill, anything that could catch on fire that would leak out of the vehicles. So we have a pumper on scene with a hose off to deal with the fluids and flammability, and the heavy rescue with all the equipment to rescue anybody that might be entrapped. That's why there's two vehicles every time.
So if it's not an accident, if it's a call to a home, does that happen?
If it's a call to a home, normally it'll be one responding truck with medical equipment on it, but it depends on what side of the city. If you're on the north side, it'll be one truck from our North Fire Department on McCarthy. And if you're on the south side, it'll be coming from the Erie Street Department. And we have a line in the hall that we've divided the city basically north and south, and that decides, that boundary decides which station the truck's going to come from.
Thanks, that clarifies that. So the next part was they were talking about turning the water off in the cemetery, which I'm sure that's not a very large cost. And then somebody asked about, I'm assuming that the water is shut off there. It's only probably running from March to October. That's just a minor thing to ask about.
Yeah, I believe you're right. It isn't going to be when it's frozen. Go ahead.
Through the chair. So if it's a hydrant itself and it's closed off, we're always aware of that during certain months if it can't be drained. But normally the hydrants, we maintain water going to them all year long. The screw is put down far enough below the freezing line so we don't have to worry about the water being frozen. So when we undo the screw, it'll still provide the water we need.
Oh, sorry. They were talking about the people, if they want to water their flowers.
Oh,
In the cemetery.
Sorry. But that was good explanation. That's interesting to know that. I mean, I assumed all fire hydrants are open all the time, but they were saying about people watering their flowers up at the cemetery, that you could bring your own water. And I'm sure the cost is so small for the amount of water that's used up there, and then, like if you needed 2 buckets of water or something like that. I think it's a great service that we offer.
yeah. Well, my apologies. I thought we were still talking.
Oh, well, I thought that was great. That was interesting to hear.
Very welcome.
Okay, I've got Councillor Purback and then Gaffin and Baslasco. Go ahead, Jody.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just like to thank the 95 people who took the time to respond to the survey. I thought that was a really great response. Just in a way so that people know, I went through all the responses and I was looking for things that came up again and again. So things that people were think we should spend more money on are roads, so road maintenance, potholes, etc. The second was affordable housing and homelessness, which I thought was very accurate and interesting. And the third was snow removal. Some of the things that people wanted reduced spending on, the top 3, gardens and flowers, police, and a lot of people suggested that the police shift some of their funding over towards social services. So, and I think our police department is making some efforts to do that. And the last one was tourism spending. So those are the things that people were suggesting could be reduced. One suggestion I thought was really interesting maybe to consider was about parking, suggesting that maybe that for locals, we could look at some kind of monthly parking pass because we have the electronic machines already. Even if it wasn't a huge cost reduction for locals, it would be certainly a convenience thing if we could have some sort of monthly parking pass that they could pay for. They wouldn't need to go to the machine every time and punch in the codes and so on, especially in the winter time. To save money, I think that's a really great idea. So those just a few comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dave, you're next.
I wonder if the Director of Community Services could actually give us some insight on what Bonnie was asking about the water at the cemetery.
Sure, I'll turn it over to David.
Through the chair. So we do have water turned on in the summertime for the convenience of people who want to water the flowers around the plots. But in the wintertime, it's all winterized and put away. So it's really a 6-month.
Okay, anything else, Dave, or is that it?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Kathy.
I really appreciate that we got more responses, I think, this year than we ever have in trying to get engage the public in some questions. So I like to see that. I'm just wondering if it's possible to provide, it's PDF format right now, and I may be able to convert it over to an Excel file, but I'm wondering whether it's available as an Excel, which would then allow us to quickly sort and see what the responses were, what the most common responses were, things like that. I'm just not sure if staff have it easily available as an Excel or some kind of a database file, then I'd appreciate getting it in that format, just so I could do, rather than having to sit with, and count up the responses, I could do it quickly with some sorting.
Okay, I'll ask Joan about that. Is that possible, Joan?
Let me take that back to staff, and we will advise council on whether we can provide it in an Excel spreadsheet so that it can be sorted, and we will advise council.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on 3.1, the 2021 budget survey? I was also going to add, I was surprised at the response. I don't know if it's because people are at home or what, but it was it was amazing. Of all the time I've been on council, I have never experienced anything like that. So, and it was interesting. Some people want lower taxes. Some people, they don't mind if it's higher. It was interesting, the cross sectional we got. So if we could have a motion that the report from the Director of Corporate Services regarding the 2021 budget survey dated December 16th to be received for information. Moved by Councillor Bunting, second by Councillor Burbach. Bonnie?
I can't find it right now, but there was some really different ways of looking at. I mean, I was thinking about the one where they were saying about just snow plowing one side of the street. I was trying to imagine how you could even do that. Like I'm thinking, okay, I'm on Patricia Road, so how would you do Catherine? And I was trying to figure out how you would do that in a city if you decided that, say, all local streets are just plowed on one side. And I've seen other cities where they have a sign up saying this sidewalk is not maintained in the winter type thing, but I just thought there was some in there that were kind of unique. And maybe I don't know, maybe a suggestion would be is that we could maybe go through and pick out some that we think are worth sort of looking at, in more detail to see if it's even possible.
Right.
I don't have my list right here, sorry.
Yeah, if any counselor has something specific like what Councillor Burbach brought up, certainly that can be added anytime. So, and we will have time for that, quite frankly. I don't know if right now is the time, but obviously if someone has something, specific, they want a motion, it could be.
I just thought it was really good at how many people took the time. Some people just had one-liners, which is still fine. But I mean, some of them went into great detail of what they think about their city and what could work. And it was nice to see that most people thought it was fair to good, So anyway, just some ideas.
Right. We have a motion on the floor. If there's no other comments or question, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. 3.2, the changes to the 2021 draft budgets. And we have the pages and it talks about the increase. Any questions or comments on the changes? And we have the pages. Councillor Gaffney.
I wonder if I could make a motion on something.
Sure.
I'd like to see us add, I'm thinking like we did last year, we had a $30,000 contingency in the grants item for anything that comes along as we're deliberating that part of the budget. So I'd like to make a motion that we add 30,000 to contingency for the grants program.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Bunting is seconding. I'll open up for questions or comments on that motion. Councillor Bunting. I don't think you have your speaker on, sorry.
Yeah, my bar wasn't working for whatever reason. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not splitting hairs with the motion, although I think it was more like a little over $40,000 was the contingency last year. I could be wrong.
It's possible. Okay, that's possible.
And that if we want to change it, that's fine with this mover.
Okay. So the mover and the seconder will change it to 40,000, and Councillor Vassilasko wants to speak to the motion.
I was just going to say that contingency amount has varied over the years. I think one year it was 50,000, 30. Like it varies a little bit, but I'm fine with it at 40. And just it always varied in what was left over in a way. Like we hadn't flagged it as a specific contingency, but it's probably a good idea to put a number on it.
Well, it hasn't been added in at all because I spoke to Janice about it, and as far as I know, it wasn't added. So, and there's always people asking for extras for things that come up. So we have a motion on the floor to add 40,000 for the contingency on. Any questions or comments on that? I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? I think that was unanimous, I believe. Thanks. So anything else in that draft report, the draft budget? If not, we have a staff recommendation that the report from the Director of Corporate Services regarding changes to the 2021 draft budget dated December 16th, 2020 be received for info. Moved by Mayor Matheson, seconded by Councilor Vassilasco. Councilor Ingram would like to speak to it. Oh, sorry. Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Thank you. Item number four.
Danielle did put her hand.
Danielle, do you have your hand up? Sorry.
No, I don't have my hand up. I was
sorry.
voting.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm sorry.
I thought that's fine. Thank you. Item 4.1 is the Saturday on Demand Transit pilot, and I'll turn it over to our director to discuss this.
So this was an item brought up at a previous budget meeting about talking about an on-demand transit service pilot. So we have given you two scenarios. Scenario one is a hybrid service, and really it is starting off with an on-demand service and then switching to a full service during our peak hours, and then switching back to an on-demand service in the evening. We feel that there are some challenges with that, and one specific one being that if during the switch times, we may catch a passenger waiting at a stop and the bus never coming by to pick them up because we've lost them in the on-demand service. In scenario two is a full on-demand for Saturday with staggered start time. So again, in our slow times, we would have, let's say, one bus in the morning, and then we would ramp up during the day, and then in the evening again, ramp back down. The impact in scenario one would be around $40,000, and in scenario two would be roughly $90,000.
Okay, I have Councilor Gaffney, then Councilor Vassilasco.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the director, how has the Saturday program been working out? Or sorry, the Sunday on demand, has it been running pretty good? People are responding positively?
So far, the answer is yes. It has been an overwhelming success. And once people understand how the system works, they seem to be using it frequently.
Excellent, thanks.
And then Martin.
Yeah, I actually think I agree that scenario two is probably the one that's going to be the least confusing. And the last thing we need is somebody, even one or two people stuck out there in the middle of winter waiting for a ride that doesn't show up. I was just wondering, if we're running this as a pilot, what would be the period that you would think that we could come back to us with some idea of how it's working, and what kind of metrics would you be looking for continuation of the pilot? Would it be, being able to meet the demand and things like that, and ridership numbers?
We would be probably considering, if it was a pilot, to be a 6-month pilot, and we would compare ridership and also customer satisfaction based on phone calls or bus driver feedback.
Okay, Councilor Pritzma is next, I believe.
Yeah, so actually both were answered. So we're looking at a 6-month time frame, and also, yeah, it would be nice to hear what our passengers have to say. But as Councillor Vassilasco stated, I would support the second option for sure. Great work, thank you.
Councilor Petey, then Councilor Seven.
I'll move the staff recommendation for option 2.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Moved by Mayor Matheson, he'll second it. Councilor Seven would like to speak to it.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up. it says that there was like sort of an overwhelming positive experience. Have we had much feedback that has been negative?
Mike, the manager, is sitting beside me, and he tells me that there's been very little negative feedback.
So, and do we have an idea of what that feedback has been? Have we had people that have been sort of not aware of the pilot project, or people that have just haven't found it, to book by phone, like very inconvenient or anything like that, or what has it been?
I think it's all been a learning curve. So the frustration or the feedback has been on learning how the system works.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, but I was going to ask, would it cut back on like the amount of fuel we use also? Like I was thinking, if you don't have regular runs, like could you explain that, how it will change our consumption of fuel?
Yeah, so the buses only are in motion when they're dispatched. So yes, there will be a reduction in fuel, which may lead to a reduction in maintenance costs and may add to the length of the life of a bus.
Right. So we do have a motion on the floor. Any other questions or comments on the motion on the floor? And it's to staff recommendation that scenario 2 be implemented to operate on demand for entire Saturday. And it's a trial period of up to 6 months. Kathy, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question about whether there was going to be consideration for creating an app for booking. I know right now it's all done. Is it done by phone, or is there now an app option for booking?
Through the chair, there is an app that you can book through.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Henderson, I believe you had your hand up.
When were they thinking of starting this? After Christmas, before Christmas, or next year?
Well, in 2021, but I'll turn it back to David St. Louis.
Yeah, we would probably be looking at the first Saturday in February as a target start date.
Great. Councillor Hudman, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I just wanted to say that I don't support the motion. I like the idea of the pilot project. I'm just apprehensive at this point. I would like to see ideally the Sunday on demand go for a little more time. And I'm a little apprehensive as well about this being brought on as part of budget discussions, rather than sort of brought about after we've that the Sunday one has run its course. But I think it's a good idea. I just would have preferred not quite so soon. But
Okay, thank you. We do have a motion on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? Opposed, if any? That's passed. Item 4.2, the draft budget reduction options. And we have a report on that. I'll turn that, Joan, I'll turn that over to you maybe.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the report from the Director of Corporate Services with respect to some reduction options. Under background, you will see where we are with the tax levy and with the information there. So at previous budget meetings, there were some requests for some additional information, and they are identified there in analysis of where additional savings could be implemented. So we could reduce the council special events expense by $10,000 for 2021. You have the report and you have dealt with that regarding the Stratford on demand. And that was a specific request to departments to look for options to reduce expenses for the budget to help out. And so that staff have done that and presented. There was also information requested with respect to the new CAD operator, and there is a way to do some additional savings there by having that funded from the water and wastewater budgets. And then there was also information with respect to taking more from the tax stabilization reserve if council so wishes. There is also an option here to reduce the brownfield applications under the grants. If council is interested in any of these, we would ask for a specific motion at this time on these. And you have already dealt with the community grants with the contingency being put in for this year. But these were the additional cost savings that were identified. I'd also just like to mention specifically about the transit funding announcement that was made today and that has been communicated to you. So Janice has advised that the money that we are getting, that we are eligible, my apologies, eligible for is not going to be reflected in the 2021 budget. We do need to apply for that, and we'll do so. And it needs to be eligible expenses. So that's why it won't be reflected in the budget. And secondly, there was also funding of $362,000 that will go for, again, that is specific to COVID expenses. And we need to, again, just make sure that we are eligible for those as well. So I just wanted to let you know about those two funding. They will help out if we are able to obtain those funding. And there was also an announcement about the social services funding of $441,000. That is money that was previously announced. And so they're just confirming that we are eligible for that. And the Director of Social Services is online to answer any specific questions about that. Other than that, those are my comments at this time. And I would be pleased to try to attempt to take any questions on Janice's behalf at this time.
Okay, we have Councillor Henderson and Councillor Baslasco.
So the one funding, I think we had a line budget of $25,000 for personal protective equipment. That was replacing equipment in that. So I'm kind of guessing we might be able to use that towards that. And my other question is about, let me get to that. So funding the wages and benefits of the new CAD operator in the water and wastewater budgets for a saving of $77,140. How will that affect that budget? And would that be continued on like forever as long as we have that job, or would it be reintroduced into the department's budget after? And what is the connection of the CAD operator to the wastewater treatment? I'm just wondering, under the wastewater treatment operation, is supposed to take care of all the of funding all the pipe repairs and all that stuff for that department, and if we're taking $77,000 away from there, I have concerns about that.
I'll ask our Director of Infrastructure to explain that to us.
Yes, through the chair. The funding that we get from water and sewer not only pays for the actual work, but it pays for the staffing. So, you know, the CAD operators, designers, the engineers, they do work on the system when they design new water mains, replacement sanitary sewers. So, you know, this is what a lot of other municipalities do as well in funding that. So if we were to say hire a consultant to do that design, we would take the money from the water and sanitary fund. So that's the rationale in using having staff time go towards that. We do some of that already. And what we're looking at is we probably should be doing even more of that, where more of those funds should be going towards the staff time that is spent on maintaining those systems. And that's why we've made that recommendation with respect to the new CAD operator.
Okay, Kathy, you've got your next.
So for clarity, we've reduced the budget by $90,000 with having already moved the on-demand for Saturday, but added $40,000 to the contingency. So we are already effectively cutting $50,000 from the operating budget, I take it. And that would take that 1.99% that we see there as the adjusted tax levy down a little bit further, like 0.08 or something like that, it would appear. So I can see the rationale for funding the wages of the CAD operator, and I'm happy to move that. But beyond that, I think that we're actually good. I think that we've done well to do that. So I'll move that we fund the wages and benefits of the new CAD operator in the water and wastewater budgets for the additional 77,140 savings.
Okay, do we have a seconded by Councillor Burbach? Let's speak to that motion specifically on the CAD operator for the saving of 77,140. Any other questions or comments on that particular motion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Kathy?
Oh, until I have to go to another meeting
Yeah,
now.
I understand that. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We'll talk to you later. Councillor Seven.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification around what the tax levy is at, or what it was at before this meeting. So is it 2.68, or will it actually be reflected as 1.99%, or is that
right? That's a good question. Now, yeah, I understand. If I understand correctly, I did email Janice, but I hadn't got. I think she's away today or something. But I believe it is 1.99. But I'll ask Tone for clarification on that.
Yes, sorry, I don't have that information. I was talking briefly with the director before she was called away with respect to that, but I do not want to give information that's not up to date. So we can get back to council. I will clarify that and get back to council as soon as possible with where we're at.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I think that's the correct thing. Until we get all this and we have our director back, it would be a lot easier. But it's in the report. Anything else in item 4.2? We got the CAD operator. Any other questions or comments on the report? Councillor Seven.
I would move to reduce the council special events expense by 10,000.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Gaffney will second it. Open up for questions or comments on that 10,000. Councillor Bunting. I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, I'm just unmuting there. Okay, so what would be the amount that's in there in the first place? So I know what we're looking at. Just in the event that things do open up towards the end of the year, and there's maybe some events that are conventions that people have to go to or would like to go to.
Right. Like I believe it's like the Canada Day and things like that, but I'll turn it over to our Chief Administrative Officer.
Yes. So with respect to the special events account, these are expenses incurred for our events organized by the Mayor's Office on behalf of council, such as Civic Night, Bronze Star presentation, the Council of Churches barbecue, the Mayor's Community Breakfast, the Council inauguration. That's not applicable this year. The employee Christmas social in past years, and the Christmas dinner, and it is also the Community Recognition Awards and other events that may come up from time to time. So those are the typical events. And there was a request to see if that amount could be reduced by $10,000 in 2021 because of the COVID pandemic. It is my understanding that for 2022, there will be a request for that $10,000 to go back into that budget because hopefully by then we will be back to a more typical event calendar.
Right.
Thank you.
Tone, how much is in that? Like I know we're taking 10 out, but how much was in it originally? I think that's what the council was asking.
I'm sorry. Yes, $32,000 was put in initially for the 2021 budget year.
Right. So it would have 22,000 that would be remaining. And with the COVID, it appears that it is going to slow down until at least June or July until I have a vaccine. I don't know. Here, Matheson.
I think it can easily be reduced. Normally, the Community Recognition Awards is one of the largest expenses because we buy plaques and awards for a number of people. Right there this year, not being any sports events or individual activities that we would be recognizing, there in itself probably represents the vast majority of that $10,000 alone.
Thank you very much. So we have a motion on the floor. Any other questions or comments on the motion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Anything else in that report that someone would specifically like to talk about? Councillor Henderson.
Well, Kathy mentioned about the Saturday on demand, but we already passed that, so
Yes,
that's
we have. Yeah, that's
so
gone.
that so we don't have to vote on that. So that basically we've saved 10,000, approximately 50,000, $77,140. So all we really need is for Janice to update us at what percent we're at.
Exactly, and we'll get that a bit later. Anything else? If not, we do have a staff recommendation that the report titled 2021 Draft Budget Reduction Options be received for information. Moved by Mayor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Haben. Questions, comments on that one? All in favor? Thank you, that's unanimous. I don't have anything else until our director gets back with us with a report on what we've done. Anything else anyone else would like to talk about regarding the budget? Councillor Ritzma.
Just a comment, and I'm not sure whether it fits here today, but certainly there has been discussion around the Cooper site, and wondering if perhaps in the new year, if I can make a request that we get a dollar figure for the removal of the damaged part of the building and the closing in of the remaining of the structure, just so that, and I know it won't be part of this budget. I know we have money in set aside for that, but it would be nice to look at something of that nature in the new year.
I think that's an excellent idea. Like we have about, from the fairgrounds and the Tom Patterson, about 5.5 maybe. So, like we have that already like allotted for that. So I think that's a great idea. So if we could have a report back.
Yeah, so I'll make that motion to report back on that. I appreciate that.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Gaffney will second that. Councillor Henderson.
Oh, I'm trying to remember back because I kind of thought that money was put in that fund sort of to help kick off the start off, like, you know, the solar panels and not sure where it's at with that business that was interested in moving in there, but to sort of get that going. And if we start picking away at that and just using it to reduce some of the part that looks so awful instead of doing a wholesome package. And I believe I'd asked for something to come back, and I think it's going to be in the new year earlier about if we're not going to get grants, what's the community will? Let's just start the project and get her going and see how many businesses and people in town would be willing to donate. I believe it was about 2 years ago in February that I made a motion that we start a fundraising committee. We raised quite a bit of money to do the Rotary Complex, and I am sure there are a lot of people in our city that would be more than excited or willing to help fund to get this Cooper or the Grand Trunk done and get it started. And, you know, it takes what, a good 2 years for it to even get built and done. And I just think it's important that we decide as a city. We've made a decision. We've had our open houses. We've had lots of people put their input of what they'd like to see there. And if we're in Martin's talking about doing that, like we need a whole package just coming back and let's start.
Well, like a report will come back, but like eventually we have to close the building in. We have edit paint, we have asbestos in there. There's all kinds of things that have to be done before we start a building. So also Councillor Ritzma has his hand up.
Yeah, just to continue that thought, certainly this work has to be done, and we do have funds set aside for it. So I'm sure as the information comes back from staff that it'll identify that work has to be done, and regardless of what we continue with, whatever the businesses or organizations that go in there. And it would be a positive project, one of the many positive projects going forward in the new year. Thank you.
So we have a motion on the floor to have a report back on the Cooper site, and it can, Councillor Henderson, it can take in all of that as far as the public helping or whatever we can get help from. Any other questions or comments on the motion on the floor? Call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. Anything else? Councillor Seven.
Thank you. I was just wondering, just for the public, if we could, if I can ask Mr. Dulovic when a report on the RNG project will be coming to council for discussion.
Yes, through the chair, I've drafted a report and hopefully pending review that it'll be available. It'll be before council on the 21st
Thank you.
of December.
Councillor Henderson.
I forgot earlier when some of the people had made comments about it. The Green Bank program, so all the residents are now in the program and the downtown is. And my understanding is in 2021, we're going to be expanding it to the rest, like the condominiums, private lanes, and is that still in the budget for 2021? And the other businesses?
Through the chair, no, what we had in the program is where we do pickup. So those private condominiums, private lane, or wherever we don't do pickup, where we don't have curbside pickup, that's not in the budget for 2021 to do pickup there because we don't send the trucks. The trucks don't go into those onto those private properties to do garbage pickup.
Right.
So what about the other businesses then? Like there's still that part, right? Like we're doing the downtown businesses, but weren't we going to expand it out to other businesses?
Through the chair, I'll confirm with staff, there were some additional areas that we were going to do where we do the recycling and waste pickup. I mean, we did make an offer to businesses in the downtown, not all of them. I'm not sure if any of them took up us on the offer because they have because of the amount of material they produce, but I'll follow up with staff on that. But wherever we were doing pickups, curbside pickup, we were prepared to offer them a green bin.
And I believe there was apartment buildings that were larger than 4 that were still left. And what we were talking about, the private lanes and condominiums, if they were willing through their boards, is there a way that we could negotiate a fee where we could go out and pick it up if they were willing to do that?
Through the chair, I mean, we're looking at it, but there would be a cost. We're looking at how that would be done. I've asked staff to provide some costing as to what that would cost in 2021 to expand that program to those areas that we're not doing waste or recycling collection at this time.
Okay, thanks.
Any other items directed on the budget? If not, I would accept a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Seven, second by Councillor Ingram. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. We'll talk to you soon.
Stay safe.